Well, we're switching attention now to matters of security. Well, they're not totally going related sometimes, politics and security. But I have with me in the studio this morning, Garba Shehu, who is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media. And we also have with us Emmanuel Onwubiko, who is the Head Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, Huriwa. Gentlemen, welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning.
It wasn't too long ago we had you in the studio talking about the security situation in the country. It hasn't improved since then. Can we confidently say that it hasn't, can we be categorical when we say it hasn't improved since then? Is it a statement you will agree with?
Then if you say that you are ignoring all of the things that are happening in many of the theaters, changes are happening. Look at Zamfara now. Okay, we had an incident reported yesterday. But before now, for about 2-3 weeks, we had some calm there. Birnungwari, Kaduna. Birnungwari is not in the news anymore for some time. Southern Kaduna, quite. Again, we are building peace. It's not as if all of these things will just go with a wave of the hand.
You know, what the picture that comes to my head from the solution or from what you're saying, what I have in my head is a sack with a number of holes, and then it looks like you're trying to plug one. As you're plugging the other, it's like, you know, whatever is happening is coming out through the other holes. That's the picture I have in my head right now, and it looks like that's how the security situation is. Because since the last time you were here, I think the president's ADC's father-in-law was kidnapped. A number of villages have been sacked in Katsina State, which is the president's home state. We've also seen some incidences along the Abuja-Kaduna corridor. I think it was a UBEC chairman who was kidnapped and his daughter. I mean, there are a number of incidences here and there, and, you know, all of them just add up to painting a picture of insecurity. I think when my colleagues in Lagos started a conversation with the Minister of Transport, they started with the fact that a number of people now, a lot more people want to travel by rail because they don't feel very safe traveling by road to Kaduna. And now we hear that even generals are looking for train tickets because they don't want to go to Kaduna by road anymore. Doesn't that paint a picture of what are we really doing? You know, are we doing much? Yes, to try and make the country safer.
Yeah, so much is going on. What is going on is that, for instance, the main theater had been Zamfara for some time. And when this major activity was launched, the army, the police, the Air Force, the Secret Service, everyone, it's expected that some of those elements that had actually controlled some measure of territory and the set of kingdoms of crime of sorts would splinter, will break away, and they will disperse. As a matter of fact, you didn't mention the fact that the week before, a new base was being set up along Abuja-Lokoja Road by these people who had migrated from. So the thing is that they will be chased, and they're being closed in upon, and we were winning. We will win over all of these things. When you say, well, it is expected that people will be called towards roads that even those that are being newly opened now, for instance, Gusau, Kauran Namoda, to Katsina, Jibia, there is regular patrol, but people ask, you have to be strong to take that road now. It will take time for people to be persuaded that these roads are safe.
Mr. Onwubiko, whether or not you share the optimism, or whether you're persuaded by the fact that, or by the thought that things are getting better security-wise in the country.
Thank you very much. I want to start by asking Nigerians to, if you have the time and you have the resources and you have the data, all you need to do to see if the security situation in Nigeria has improved or not is to read the statement that was made by His Royal Highness, the Emir of Katsina, only about 24 hours ago. It's the cover, I think the cover of Daily Post of this morning. You know, he was asking the Minister of Agriculture to tell Mr. President that Katsina needs security. that there's no security in Katsina State, and that is the home state of Mr. President. Look, the question of insecurity and the breakdown of law and order that has been unleashed all over the country, not just in the north, but maybe the north is the epicenter of the security nightmares. The problems are such that we need to isolate politics from security. But the problem we have with the political class, whether the PDP, whether it's APC or whoever, they mix up so many things. They play politics with security. Nigeria has multiple problems of, we have human security, spectacular failures. We have food security challenge. We have border security challenge. We have to really get our frameworks, both legally and in terms of enforcement of the blueprints, security blueprints that has been drawn out by the government, and effectively see to it that whenever there are failures of security like the type we have in the entire northwest zone of this country, that the perpetrators, you don't go into negotiations with perpetrators of this kind of terrible violence. A few days back, the delegation from the Nigerian government was quoted in the media to have held meetings with the Miyetti Allah Cattle Owners Association. That is a platform that in the last couple of years, a lot of Nigerians have been saying, Nigerian government, Mr. President should take a closer look at the leadership of this association that has always been in the media, been seen to be providing some kind of support for the suspected armed headers that have killed several Nigerians. Now the government is going into dialogue with this kind of elements in the society. It's not the best. Here with me is the Constitution of Nigeria. Every Nigerian has to make serious effort to read the Constitution and understand. What is the primary duty of government? The primary duty of government, according to Section 14(2)(b), is to provide the security of lives and property of every Nigerian citizen and even foreigners that reside in Nigeria. If a government is incapable, or if the government is unwilling, if the government lacks the political will and lacks the willpower to enforce the relevant laws against outlaws, against hoodlums, people who have taken arms against the state, that government has lost the authority and legitimacy to govern. The Constitution says the sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. It is the people of Nigeria that have given Mr. President and his team the legitimacy to exercise the authority of leading over Nigeria for a specific period of time, 4 years in the first instance, and if he's re-elected, like the way he has been re-elected according to INEC, he has another 4 years term. The first time Mr. President came on board in 2015, why did some Nigerians, why was he elected by at least 12 million Nigerians, or more than 12 million plus, or 14 million Nigerians that voted for him in 2015? The major reason is that he was said to have a very illustrious military background, and he gave Nigerians a template, security templates, of what his government will realistically implement in the first few months of his assumption of office. He said he was going to lead from the front. He also said he was going to send all the security chiefs to the theater of war.
Which he did.
The theater of war was in Maiduguri.
Yes.
But the issue is not all about sending security chiefs to the theater of war. It's much more than that. First, you have to ask the question, what have we done about the prosecution of some of these Boko Haram terrorists that have been arrested? Why do you have to, when you arrest a suspect, you detain a suspect, rather than prosecute him vehemently and transparently, you now say you want to rehabilitate him, you now want to reintegrate him into the army? Nigerians are of the opinion.
Into the society, I believe that's where they.
No, some Boko Haram, that have been de-radicalized, were recruited into the army. It's there. The facts are there.
Okay, I think that Alhaji Shehu can you know, can respond to that. Do you want to quickly respond to some of the issues raised?
Yeah.
The letter written by the Emir of Katsina talking about security is definitely not a very pleasant one.
Let me say
what's been happening in recent times.
Comrade Omubiko has made some pertinent points about the fact of politics being present in some of the things we are witnessing. It's beyond criminality, and the military issued a statement only 48 hours or so, clearly indicating that intelligence is showing the hands of politicians talking to Boko Haram and the bandits. That is a fact. But it is totally unfair to the services, military securities and the military. Every day arrests are being made. Some of these bandits are being eliminated. But the thing is that it will take a while for the entire project to be complete. Again, it is a mistake to say that the Nigerian government is talking to bandits. I think that people who are worried like him should go and do some more reading. The Miyetti Allah group is like your own Ohanese or Afenifere. It's just a cultural group.
It's not.
But there are criminals within the Yoruba race, and you cannot say because they are Yoruba criminals, then Afenifere is a band of criminals. Nigerian government is speaking to the leadership of the Fulani Cultural Association, Miyetti Allah.
Is it true that they were offered 100 million naira to stop the...
That is absolute falsehood. I've confirmed that in all of those meetings, nothing about money was discussed. All of the issues were about the involvement of the leadership of this group in getting them to prevail upon their errant members, and there are many. How do they assist administration, government to recover weapons that are widely owned by a lot of these elements?
And they claim that money wasn't a part of the discussion when it looks like what you're asking them to do is institute some sort of amnesty program?
No, it hasn't come to that point. Look, it's a win-win situation for all, because they also have their own issues, which they brought to the government, and the more discussions take place, the more interesting it becomes. The thing is that they're going to engage a number of state governments. A lot of them, for instance, also had come forward to say that, well, criminality is growing among some of their young people because they had been dispossessed of their livelihood. Cattle ownership is all that they had. You know, they had been dispossessed because of rustling. And so therefore, these things are being addressed, and they are, as moving to the next stage now, states like Kogi, Benue, Kaduna, Zamfara, Katsina and Niger, they'll be talking to their governor so that use them. They're available so that they can help the government to call to order and to help the government to control some of these things that are unfolding.
Now, some people are saying that we need to hold a national security summit. They're asking that that the president convenes a national security summit to talk about the challenges that we're facing and perhaps address some of the plans that this administration has in trying to cut, because it's gotten to a worrisome level. Oh, you don't agree?
No, I have no problem with Nigerians talking to one another, everyone discussing this issue. I have complained about media agenda setting on some of these elements. I have said that if half television time that is reporting criminality, half of the newsprint that is dedicated to this banditry and all, if we are talking about solutions, not incidents, would have gone far. But don't forget also that less than 12 months ago, the National Assembly convened a National Security Summit. So maybe the question to be asking is, where are the resolutions and how far have we gone? If you ask me this question, I don't know.
It is interesting that you say you don't know.
Because if I knew this will arise, I would have inquired.
Only recently, the Senate did hold, in one of their sittings, they made reference to that security summit which they convened. They invited the security chiefs, they invited members of the executive arm of government, and they held what they thought was a thorough session. And in recent times, when security came up for discussion again in the National Assembly out of concern, they asked, how far you know, with the recommendations that we brought forward at our National Security Summit. What is going on with implementation? We all know that the National Assembly doesn't have the power to implement, apart from appropriating monies for whatever it is and oversighting to ensure that monies that are appropriated are spent for what they're supposed to be spent for. So the question will be, what did the executive, which was also a part of that summit, what did they take away from it, and what are they doing to implement some of the things that they got away from the summit?
Because it is not in my line of duty, one needs to take the telephone and make some calls and say, what's going on? What is the latest? What is the update? And certainly, I'll be willing to answer your question the next time I meet you.
I think the issue, the problem, there is a fundamental, there is something that is missing somewhere. When government officials, whether they are National Assembly, legislators or members of the executive arm of government, when they meet to discuss about security, their major focus is usually on funds, on money. Nigeria should take away their eyes from money. Even when you talk about money, okay, the recent, maybe the most immediate outcome of that summit you're talking about is that the National Assembly upped the budget, set up the budget far above what Mr. President presented to them, and allocated over 80 billion in addition to the original budget line that was given to them by Mr. President because of security concerns. But I think security issues are much more than just money. Because if you just throw, even if you open the vaults of central bank and give it to the security forces, if you have some individuals in any of these security services that are not patriotic, the issue is, do we have statesmen who are in these armed security services? To be very candid, I must tell you that the Chief of Army Staff, I think Tuku Buratai, is not a very bad officer to start with. This is a very committed Nigerian. The Chief of Naval Staff, these are all this. But the issue is this: what are these security forces doing about some individuals that are sabotaging the strategies, security strategies that are being put in place? Because, like in the Northeast, if you go through the media reports in the Northeast, when immediately security operations are about to be staged against Boko Haram, some of these Boko Haram terrorists do get information far ahead of the implementation of such operations. Who usually gives them this kind of information? Then secondly, what is the government doing about border security? I was privileged to be in a committee that was set up by the last government, the committee that wanted to resolve the issue of Boko Haram when it started newly, the Presidential Committee on Peace and Dialogue and Restoration of Peace in Northern Nigeria. I was a member of that committee, and the issue of border security was part of the issues we discussed. Nigeria's porous borders are not very helpful. If you look at Mr. President's home state, if you look at the distance between Mr. President's home state of Katsina or even Sokoto or even Adamawa, just like what is happening in the tribunal right now when they say our former vice president is no longer from Nigeria, maybe because Adamawa and Cameroon, they have a proximity, you understand? What are we doing about securing our borders? What are we doing about drones? The other time, the federal government said the military has been able to develop a homemade drones. You don't need to talk to Mieti and Cattle Owners Association for them to tell you that you are in government how to resolve the security situation. That is the reason why Nigeria believe in you, believe in Mr. President, who is a general of the army. You know what it takes for an individual to become a general in the army? The kind of trainings, the kind of exposures that have been given to him, Mr. President. So Nigerians believe that he has the capacity. You don't need to go back to Miyat Allah. Most of them have not even gone beyond primary schools. So you're going to tell them to tell you how to resolve the issues. If they know, because of the fact that you actually need Nigerians to volunteer information, if they have information to give to the government regarding some of their members who are bandits, they need to give that information. You don't need to go and meet them and begin to beg them, please, can you tell these guys to change? Why should you beg a criminal to change for being a criminal? You arrest a criminal, you prosecute a criminal, you deal with that criminal decisively, no matter the tribe. Whether the criminal is Igbo, whether the criminal is Yoruba, whether the criminal is Hausa or Fulani, that shouldn't be the concern of Mr. President. The concern of Mr. President should be the safety, the well-being of Nigeria as a corporate entity. Mr. President is no longer a Fulani man. Mr. President is the Nigerian president. He is the president for the Igbos. He's the president for the Yorubas. He's the president for Mieti Allah. So what should you be meeting with Mieti Allah association?
I think it's important to state here that the focus is not the meeting with Mieti Allah. But the questions which you have raised are pertinent in terms of the capacity of state to be able to prosecute, to be able to stop the impunity which is ravaging the land. It would seem that the impression a lot of Nigerians are getting from that meeting is that it seems the government is raising up its hands in the air and saying, well, we can't do anything anymore. Let us be talking to the social political groups. Maybe they can help us out here. Is that what the situation is, Alhaji Shehu?
Well, I think that from any enlightened democratic point of view, there shouldn't be any problem with anyone in a democratic society talking to members of the society about problems that we have and how we can solve them. These strategies have worked in this country. I don't want to go back to all of the things that happened in the past in Niger Delta, but even under President Muhammadu Buhari, when he came into office, there was a spike in militancy and the sabotage of our oil facilities. In fact, the export of oil declined by 50%. You know that. And all of that built up to the recession that we came through. But what happened? The government went, engaged with leaders of communities. Yes, those leaders, they don't have guns, they don't have aircraft or whatever. But they sat down with government and they use their influence. And now all of that has led to a situation where oil production has moved up and we're back to normal.
How many more
so the point is that
we
have to talk. They are Nigerians.
I agree. Well, I don't know, what to say here, because you say that they are Nigerians. We have heard in the past, this Mieti Allah saying that the people who are causing this fighting are not Nigerians, so, and that they have also been at the receiving end of these marauders who come to steal their cattle, and also, they also, suffer kidnapping and things of the sort from these marauding people. Yet you say they're Nigerians?
But, the thing is, I think that we have to move away from our stubborn belief that criminality has anything to do with ethnicity. That has been dismissed by sociological studies decades ago. You follow? The fact that there are criminal elements within the crime community, and this is ECOWAS, free movement of persons and goods, including animals. You can't stop them. And so therefore, when there is a streaming of criminals, and let's pretend as if we don't understand what is all of that is happening.
Let's come back, and I will let you finish your thoughts on that. In a moment, please stay with us. It's our closing moment here with our guest in the studio. We're still talking about the security situation in the land, and Haji Shehu, you're about to finish your thoughts on leaders talking, exercising influence in their areas of influence. And I was saying that Magban says they have been at the receiving end of this people who have been marauding and stealing their cattle as well. Can we really ask them to be having conversations with the attackers?
Yeah, this is achievable because when you look at the profile of some of the leaders of the Mieti Allah. Some of their grand patrons are leading emirs and the chiefs. And it cannot be said that they have no influence to exercise over their own people. I think that Nigerians need to, as I said, I think that the problem is we tend to generalize criminality. There are criminal elements in all villages and towns and ethnic and religious groups.
Sorry to interrupt you, Alhaji. My quick question will be, if those criminals were around their areas of influence, why haven't the traditional rulers moved before now, if that was going to be the solution? Do they really need to wait for the federal government to be told, or that you should exercise your influence if that will stop the criminalities in their domain?
If you ask me, I would rather be positive about this, and I will say that thank you, federal government, for bringing them on board, and let's see how this works. And Comrade Omubiko, we are doing electronic border monitoring. Please. 2 weeks ago, the Nigerian government awarded a huge contract, and there will be the installation of electronic monitors. 4,000 kilometers will be monitored.
How soon is
land
this going
border.
to be completed?
Yeah, how soon will the money will, because a contract like this will have to be funded from appropriation, and usually they give you the early part. So it depends on inflow, I believe, of money and the availability of technology that you are buying.
Does it inspire confidence in you?
It doesn't really inspire confidence. I think the problem is this. Politicians play a lot of politics with everything. The other day, the Minister of Science and Tech, who should be at the head of this kind of technological mechanisms and strategies to fight crime, rather than him, bring people together to brainstorm and talk about how they can use homemade drones. There are Nigerians, even primary school, peoples who have the capacity, who have the innate.
We're wrapping up. So what did the minister do?
Drones. The minister was talking about 2023. The APC is going to win election. They're all about election. That's the problem. Now we're even talking about the federal government. What happens to the governors?
It's true.
Why would blaming the federal government? Federal government should have like 70% blames. The governors should also have their own part of the blames. A major decision was taken yesterday, which some of us in the civil society organization were pleased that the government has moved against this incessant theft of local government funds. We have to consolidate and strengthen the local government administrations, make the local government areas autonomous, let them work. Some of these guys who are bandits in the north, a writer in Vanguard or one of these newspapers either in Punch or Lagos was saying it is a revolution by the Almajiris. Those people, they now quoted Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who said, if you refuse to train the children of the commoners, if you refuse to train them and you're always sending your own children to Oxford, to US, like Nigerian elites normally do, not just people from the north, even people from the south do that, send their children abroad, and you have public schools that are almost completely collapsed. So if you don't train these guys properly and you don't give them adequate, how do you call it, you don't make them to have a sense of belonging, that they're all Nigerians, that Nigeria is there for them, they will turn to banditry. It's as simple as that. They look at
I'm afraid
the state.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have to really get a holistic solution to it. It's not all about Mr. President telling the IG of police that he has lost weight, so he's working. That is not the issue.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, security continues to be on the front burner. It's something that we all should take very seriously, and it's a conversation we hope to keep going here on Sunrise Daily. We have to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on Sunrise Daily. Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media, and we also had with us Emmanuel Onwubiko, who is the Head Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, Urigua.